At my son's graduation party, he declared, "My stepdad got me a truck, my real mom never stepped up." I've been a mom for 18 years, and I thought I'd seen it all. Late-night homework, soccer games in the rain, teenage mood swings, but nothing prepared me for what happened at my son Ethan's graduation party last month in Asheville, North Carolina. Picture a backyard full of people, string lights glowing, and my boy, all grown up, holding a microphone. He looked out at the crowd and said, "My stepdad got me a truck. My real mom never stepped up." Those words hit like a punch to the chest. I managed a smile, hugged him, and said, "I'm proud of you." Then I walked away, my heart racing and my hands shaking. By the next week, the college fund I'd saved for Ethan, $78,000, was gone, transferred to my personal account. The shiny Ford F-150 his stepdad, Greg, gave him, repossessed. My ex-husband, Mark, and his wife, Kelly, have been calling me nonstop, their voicemails piling up like leaves in October. I'm not sure if I'm more hurt or angry, but I know one thing. Ethan made a choice that day, and choices have consequences. If you've ever felt betrayed by someone you love, stick around. This story's messy, but it's real. I'm Lisa, and this is what happened. My name's Lisa Bennett, and I'm a 42-year-old accountant who's lived in Asheville, North Carolina my whole life. I work out of a small office off Haywood Street, surrounded by coffee shops and murals, crunching numbers for local businesses like breweries and art galleries. My desk is cluttered with photos of my son, Ethan, him at 6 with a missing tooth, at 12 with his first guitar, at 18 in his cap and gown. Those pictures remind me why I've worked so hard, even when it felt like I was carrying the world alone. Ethan's my only kid, just turned 18, and he graduated as valedictorian from Asheville Christian Academy last month. He's got a partial scholarship to UNC Chapel Hill, and I've never been prouder. He's got my curly brown hair and his dad's knack for fixing things. Last summer, he rebuilt a junked Vespa in our garage. But he's also got a stubborn streak, and lately, I've wondered if I know him as well as I thought. I divorced Ethan's dad, Mark Sullivan, when Ethan was 6. Mark's a civil engineer, always on job sites, building bridges and roads across Buncombe County. We split because we were better apart, but we kept things civil for Ethan. I moved into a 2-bedroom cottage in West Asheville with a porch swing and a view of the Blue Ridge Mountains. Mark stayed in a bigger house in Biltmore Forest, 15 miles away. We shared custody, weekends with Mark, Wednesday dinners with me. I never missed a child support payment to Mark, and I went beyond that. Since Ethan was born, I've been saving for his college in a Roth IRA under my name. It's at $78,000 now, built from $2,000 a year plus interest, carefully invested through a local advisor. I'd tell Ethan, "This is your college money," and he'd grin, dreaming of dorms and textbooks. But legally, it's mine to manage, a detail I never thought would matter. Beyond that, I paid half of Ethan's private school tuition, about $8,000 a year, for a better education. I covered his Verizon phone plan, $100 a month because he loved texting his friends about music. I paid half his car insurance, $50 a month for the old Honda he drove. When he wanted guitar lessons at Asheville Music School, I shelled out $1,500 a year. His junior year trip to Washington, D.C. with his history club, $2,000 from my savings. Over 12 years, I've spent maybe $120,000 on Ethan, not counting the love and time I gave freely. 3 years ago, Mark married Kelly Harper, a banker who organizes charity runs and always smells like lavender. Kelly's nice enough, and I was glad Ethan had a stable home. Her husband, Greg Harper, is a real estate agent, 40, with a loud laugh and a habit of posting about his hustle on Instagram. Greg's office is downtown, all glass and exposed brick, where he sells condos to retirees moving to Asheville. He makes good money, maybe $90,000 a year, but spends it faster than he earns. He rents a fancy house in Biltmore Forest for $3,500 a month and leases a Mercedes for $800. I've seen his posts about living the dream, but I know from clients that he's juggling credit card debt. I think Greg wants to be the big shot in Ethan's life, maybe to prove he's better than Mark or even me. But sometimes, when he's quiet at family dinners, I catch a flicker of worry in his eyes, like he's scared of falling behind his own image. Driving to Ethan's graduation party, I felt light, excited to celebrate my boy. I had no idea I was walking into a moment that would change everything. The graduation party was held at Mark and Kelly's house in Biltmore Forest, a neighborhood of sprawling lawns and brick homes tucked among Asheville's rolling hills. Their backyard was alive with the hum of celebration. String lights draped over a wooden pergola, a long table piled with pulled pork sliders, coleslaw and local IPAs from Wicked Weed Brewing. About 60 people milled around, Ethan's classmates in sundresses and polo shirts, teachers from Asheville Christian Academy, and neighbors swapping stories about summer hikes in Pisgah National Forest. I wore a navy dress I'd bought at a boutique on Lexington Avenue, feeling good, like I belonged in this moment of pride for my son. Ethan was across the yard, laughing with friends, his graduation cap still perched on his curls. I'd brought him a Taylor guitar, $1,200, wrapped in craft paper in my car. He'd been talking about minoring in music at UNC Chapel Hill, and I pictured his face lighting up when he saw it. I was chatting with a neighbor about Ethan's scholarship when Kelly clinked her glass, calling everyone to gather near the deck. Greg stepped up, his polo shirt crisp, his smile wide but a little too practiced. He's always had this way of commanding a room, like he's selling more than just houses. "Thank you all for coming to celebrate Ethan," he began, his voice carrying over the crowd. "As his stepdad, I'm beyond proud of the man he's becoming. Valedictorian headed to UNC. He's going places." Then he pulled a set of keys from his pocket and held them up. "Ethan, these are for the Ford F-150 XLT parked out front. It's yours, buddy." The crowd erupted in cheers. Ethan's jaw dropped, and he ran to hug Greg, nearly knocking him over. I clapped too, my stomach twisting. $700 a month for a lease, I thought, based on what I'd seen at dealerships. A big gesture, but Greg hadn't mentioned it to me or Mark. Still, Ethan deserved it, so I pushed the unease aside. He was beaming, holding the keys like they were a trophy. Then he grabbed the microphone from Greg. "Thank you, Greg," he said, his voice loud and clear. "You know, growing up, I always wondered what it'd be like to have a dad who really showed up for me." My smile froze. The air felt heavier, like before a mountain storm. Ethan kept going, his eyes finding mine in the crowd. "Someone who'd make a big move, like this truck," he said, waving the keys. "My stepdad got me this. My real mom never stepped up like that." The words landed like a slap. The backyard went quiet, save for the faint hum of cicadas. 60 pairs of eyes darted between Ethan and me. My cousin Rachel, standing nearby with a beer, gripped the bottle so hard I thought it might break. Greg's smile didn't fade, but it looked forced now, like he knew he'd crossed a line but couldn't back out. Kelly stared at her sandals. Her face flushed. I felt heat in my cheeks, my heart pounding, but also this strange, hollow ache, like I was losing something I couldn't name. I wanted to shout about the $78,000 I'd saved for Ethan's college, the phone bills, the guitar lessons, the late nights helping with algebra, but I just stood there, my hands clasped tight. I think Ethan planned it, maybe egged on by Greg, who's always seemed desperate to be the hero in Ethan's story. Greg's not cruel, but I've seen how he measures himself against Mark, against me, like he's afraid of being just a footnote in our family. That day, though, Ethan's words were his own, and they cut deeper than I could have imagined. I don't remember much about leaving the party, just the crunch of gravel under my shoes as I walked to my car. The string lights in Mark and Kelly's backyard blurred through tears I wouldn't let fall. I got in my Honda, the same one I'd driven Ethan to school in for years, and sat there, gripping the steering wheel. Part of me wanted to march back and tell everyone about the $78,000 I'd saved for Ethan's college, the late nights paying bills, the guitar lessons I'd scraped together. But another part, the tired part, knew it wouldn't change what Ethan said. His words, so sharp and deliberate, kept echoing. My real mom never stepped up. I drove home to my West Asheville cottage, the porch swing creaking in the evening breeze, and felt this mix of anger and sadness, like I'd failed him somehow, but also like he'd failed me. Inside, my living room was quiet, just the hum of the fridge and a stack of Ethan's old sketchbooks on the coffee table. I sat at my kitchen table where I do my bookkeeping and stared at my laptop. I wasn't going to make a scene at the party, but I wasn't going to keep being Ethan's invisible bank either. First, I logged into my investment account. The Roth IRA, $78,000, was in my name. Money I'd saved since Ethan was a baby, $2,000 a year, growing with interest. Legally, I could do what I wanted with it, even if I'd always called it Ethan's college fund. My hands shook as I transferred it to my personal savings. It felt wrong, like I was betraying him, but also right, like I was finally standing up for myself. Next, I called Verizon and canceled Ethan's phone plan, $100 a month I'd paid since he was 14. I contacted Geico and removed my name from his car insurance, $50 a month for his beat-up Honda. If Greg wanted to be Ethan's hero, he could cover those. Then I dug into the truck. Something about Greg's grand gesture didn't sit right. I called a friend who works at a Ford dealership in Asheville and asked her to check. She found the lease, a Ford F-150 XLT, $700 a month, 36 months. But here's the kicker. Greg had listed me as a financial guarantor, using my income without asking. I felt a flash of fury, but also pity. Greg's always chasing this image of success, like he's one deal away from proving he's enough. I called the bank and said I wouldn't support Ethan's expenses anymore. Greg's finances, stretched thin with his Biltmore Forest rent and Mercedes lease, wouldn't hold up. 10 days later, the truck was gone, repossessed. I didn't sleep much that night, wondering if I'd gone too far. Ethan's face, so full of pride at the party, haunted me. But I kept coming back to his choice, the way he looked at me when he spoke. I wasn't punishing him. I was letting him live with what he'd said. The days after the graduation party felt like wading through fog. My West Asheville cottage, usually a comfort with its mismatched furniture and view of the Blue Ridge Mountains, seemed too quiet. I kept replaying Ethan's words, the way his eyes locked onto mine when he said I'd never stepped up. I checked my phone, half hoping for an apology, half dreading more accusations. By Monday, the calls started. First was Kelly, her voice sharp through my kitchen speakerphone. She works at a bank downtown, always polished. But that day, she sounded frayed. "Lisa, Ethan's a mess," she said. "The truck got repossessed this morning. He's worried sick about college costs. What did you do?" I leaned against my counter, where Ethan's old drawings still hung on the fridge. "Ethan made it clear Greg's his dad now," I said, my voice steadier than I felt. "Let Greg handle it." Kelly sighed like I was being unreasonable. "He was just excited about the truck. He's 18, Lisa. Kids say dumb things." I swallowed a lump in my throat, remembering Ethan's deliberate stare. "Kelly, he didn't just say it. He planned it. He looked at me while he tore me down in front of 60 people." She went quiet, then mumbled something about talking later and hung up. I felt a pang of guilt, wondering if I was too harsh, but also this stubborn resolve, like I had to protect what was left of my pride. 2 days later, Greg called. I was in my office off Haywood Street, surrounded by ledgers and the smell of coffee from the shop next door. His usual confidence was gone, replaced by a nervous edge. "Lisa, the bank's saying you pulled your support for Ethan's lease," he said. "That's right," I replied, tapping a pencil on my desk. "You wanted to be his hero, Greg. Step up." He hesitated, then admitted he couldn't afford the $700 monthly payments long term. "I thought Ethan could get a job, take it over," he said. I pictured Greg in his glass-walled office, probably sweating under his tailored shirt, chasing deals to keep up with his Biltmore Forest rent and Mercedes lease. He's not a bad guy, just caught in this need to outshine everyone. Mark, me, even himself. You used my income to get that lease without asking, I said. That's on you. He offered to pay for Ethan's textbooks, about $800, but I just said, be the dad you told everyone you are. He hung up, and I felt a mix of satisfaction and unease, like I'd won a point but lost something bigger. 5 days after the party, Ethan showed up at my door. It was dusk, the sky pink over the mountains. He looked exhausted, his curls messy, wearing a faded Asheville Tourists t-shirt. "Mom," he said, his voice breaking, "I'm sorry. I didn't mean to hurt you." He stood on the porch, where we'd spent summer evenings strumming his guitar. I let him in and we sat on the couch, the same one he'd sprawled on as a kid watching cartoons. Tears streamed down his face. "I was just so pumped about the truck," he said. My chest tightened. Part of me wanted to hug him, tell him it was okay. But another part, the part still raw from his words, held back. "Ethan, you looked right at me when you said it," I said softly. "You wanted me to hear every word." He wiped his eyes. "I didn't think it'd go this far. The truck's gone, and now college." I took a deep breath. "You chose Greg as your dad. You need to figure this out with him." He nodded, defeated, and left. I sat there, staring at his sketchbooks, feeling like I'd done the right thing, but hating how it hurt. The next week, things got louder. Ethan's friends posted on TikTok, calling me a deadbeat mom who abandoned her kid. It stung, but my cousin Rachel, who'd been at the party, fired back online, describing how Ethan had planned his speech. Her posts went viral in Asheville's tight-knit circles, and suddenly people were messaging me, saying they'd have done the same. Ethan, meanwhile, got a job at Wicked Weed Brewing downtown, pulling shifts for $15 an hour, about $1,200 a month. He applied for a $10,000 student loan to cover UNC's living expenses, $15,000 a year after his scholarship. I heard from Kelly he was working late, saving for books and rent. I was proud in a quiet way, but still ached for the kid who used to draw me pictures. It's been 3 weeks since Ethan's graduation party, and Asheville's summer hum, cicadas, tourists, the distant strum of buskers on Pritchard Park, feels both familiar and strange. My cottage in West Asheville, with its creaky porch swing and coffee-stained kitchen table, is still my refuge, but I catch myself staring at Ethan's old sketchbooks, wondering where we go from here. Ethan's working full shifts at Wicked Weed Brewing, pulling in about $1,200 a month at $15 an hour. He's applied for a $10,000 student loan to cover UNC Chapel Hill's living expenses, $15,000 a year on top of his scholarship. Kelly told me he's saving for textbooks, about $800, which Greg promised to cover but hasn't yet. I'm proud of Ethan's hustle, the way he's learning to stand on his own. But there's an ache in my chest when I think of him struggling. He's still my kid, even if his words cut deep. Kelly called again last night, her voice softer, almost pleading, from her office at the bank downtown. "Ethan knows he messed up, Lisa," she said. "He's sorry. Isn't that enough?" I stood in my living room, the Blue Ridge Mountains fading into dusk outside my window, and felt that familiar tug. Guilt, love, anger, all knotted together. "Kelly," I said, "Ethan chose Greg as his dad in front of everyone. I'm not his bank anymore." She sighed, mentioning Greg's trying to help, maybe with dorm supplies, but I could hear the strain. Greg's not evil. He's just stretched thin, chasing this image of the perfect stepdad while his Mercedes lease and Biltmore Forest rent eat him alive. I think he wanted Ethan's admiration to fill some hole in himself, but now he's stuck, unable to deliver. The $78,000 from the Roth IRA sits in my savings. I could give it back, make Ethan's college easier, but every time I consider it, I see his face at the party. So sure I'd done nothing. I'm thinking about a down payment on a small cabin near Blue Ridge Parkway, $200,000 with the rest on a mortgage. Or maybe I'll invest it for an early retirement, spend my days hiking instead of balancing ledgers. I don't know yet. I do know Ethan's learning what choices cost, and that's a lesson I can't buy for him. I still love him, always will, but love doesn't mean carrying someone forever. What do you think? Was I too hard on him, or did he need to learn this?